Right then, girls. Something that we need to start off with from basics is posture. I don't know any person that stands in neutral with perfect posture all of the time. What I'd like you to do, Megan, is put your feet in parallel for me, darling. Now, that's perfect. Now, what we want to think about is your foot being a little bit like a tripod. So, big foot, little foot, heel, and then this weight on the outside edge of your foot. Because what we also need to be aware of, girls, and this is something that you find far more in later pregnancy, is your arches start to collapse. Because you're carrying much more weight on the front, you end up with rolling your ankles in a little bit and you end up losing the arch in your foot. So just by putting a little bit of weight on the outside edge, you can then lift the arch a little bit, which then means that your ankle and your knees are then in a much better position. They're not rolled in. So having done that with your feet, honey, your ankles are now sat in front of your feet much better. Now that we've moved Megan's feet into neutral, she now wants to lock out at the back of her knees. So we're just taking the pressure off the back of your knees so they are just soft, and then making sure that the weight through her feet mean that your kneecaps are now down the centre. All right, lovely?
Okay, yeah.
Now, you can't see them. Bless you, I know the feeling. Right then, so from here, in order to address what was going on with Megan's hips, we need to then find the little bony bit at the front of your hips. So it's that little triangular bit that you find at the front of your hips. So depending on how far you are through the latter stages of your trimester, will depend on how easy they are to find. Don't worry if you can't, okay? So you're then kind of tracing the line of the hip and then finding that little bony triangular bit at the front, okay? So as long as those little triangular bits are pretty much facing forward without tipping under or tipping too far forward, you know that your hips are roughly in neutral. Now, your hips are pretty good, so what is actually the problem is that you were just tipping back a little bit. So from here, it meant that Megan looked like she had a little bit of sway back, which meant that it looked like her bum was tucked under. But actually, by shifting the weight forward a little bit through here and bringing the shoulders back and down, Megan's shoulders are now better aligned with her hips. It's tricky when you're in the latter stage of your third trimester because you've got such a big weight at the front, okay? Now, bringing the shoulders down has meant that we've taken out some of the curve at the front and we've taken out some of the rounding through the shoulders. Now, the other thing, she's learning, she's doing it already. So, Megan's actually naturally bringing her head backwards a little bit. So if you think of your neck a little bit like a turkey neck, stick it all the way out and then bring it all the way back for me, hon. That's it, and chin down just a wee bit. You can now see how the ear is now further to the centre of the shoulder. So that's then meant that she can actually take some of the pressure off the back of her neck and you're better aligned.